You're listening to the Copywriter On Call podcast. I'm your host, Sara Gillis, copywriter, word magic maker, and owner of What Sara Said. On this podcast, you'll feel empowered to show up online in a way that has you saying, "That's so me." Let's get started. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Copywriter On Call podcast. I am your host, Sara Gillis, and I am recording some solo on-call hours today to share a little bit about what it's like being me and my husband during this past summer. Today is officially my kids' first day of school, and we couldn't be happier. We love our children, I promise. Let me say that from the beginning here. We love our children. Our children are 12 and 9.5, almost 10, and it has been a really memorable summer with them, but that doesn't mean that it has been easy. So I wanted to dive in and share all about our summer and how we tried to balance things this summer as busy parents who also happen to work from home. Yes, both my husband and I work from home full time, and this summer was a different one for us. It was a lot of busyness, and there were a lot of things we learned when it comes to how we are present with our kids, when we are able to be present with our kids, and what kind of boundaries and expectations we needed to have moving forward. Each summer will look different from here on out, and I know that, but there are some significant learning moments that I wanted to share with you. So anyways, that's what today's podcast episode is all about. So again, for any entrepreneur, summertime can be unpredictable, to say the least. So this summer, it looked like balancing two businesses for me, this copywriter business and my new mobile book business, What Sara Reads, while also balancing my husband's full-time job. He works in IT for healthcare system here in our town, and also juggling sports and play dates and all of the things for both of our sons. So throw in a couple hockey tournaments, a bunch of baseball games, and our summertime wedding anniversary, and it was kind of a crazy dumpster fire of sorts. Trust me, I know what it's like to imitate a circus act and try to suspend ball after ball in the air like a never-ending magic trick. That is our life in the summer. The idea of a perfect summer as an entrepreneur, as a parent, it doesn't exist. But that doesn't mean that finding joy and balance is impossible. Okay. So we were able to carve out time this summer to really have quality time as a family, but we were also able to find little moments where we could fill our own buckets too, as individuals, as a couple, as parents, but also just as, people amidst all of the busyness of summer. So I wanted to share a couple things that we started the summer out with and what we learned throughout the summer in this episode. So let's dive in. All right. So first, every single summer, my husband and I, again, we both work from home full time. We sit down with our sons, who again, this summer were 12 and 9.5. And we sit down and set expectations with them for the months ahead. So given the fact that our kids are 12 and 9.5, they are relatively independent, right? They can ride their bikes in our neighborhood with helmets on in an unsupervised fashion. We don't have to, constantly be staring at them as they, ride through our neighborhood. We're blessed with a really safe neighborhood that has sidewalks everywhere. And our neighborhood is also really full of kids. And so they're relatively independent at this age. They are able to go to their friends' houses in our neighborhood. And we're kind of in this, protected, quote unquote, neighborhood where there's busy streets kind of on the far edges of our neighborhood, but their friends are within bike riding distance. And so they're not crossing these scary busy streets in order to see their friends, which is great. So anyways, at 12 and 9.5, with both of us home working full time, we decided not to send our kids to childcare during the summer, and we haven't for a few years. Given that my work is the most flexible, I can work as much or as little as I need to based on how busy the kids are, or a busy season for my husband at work, or whatever it is. So my schedule is always the most flexible because I have the say as a business owner. And so when my kids are busy with activities, or they're playing outside with friends, or they're sleeping in, because yes, we are in that era of life. Thankful for that. I work whenever I can. So even with that said, we do set expectations at the beginning of every summer. So every summer, we begin with kind of like a family meeting where we share a few ground rules. We expect our children to get dressed, to eat breakfast. They have a lot of, grab and go type of options for them. Brush their teeth and comb their hair every day. Hygiene is really important. And I don't know if it's like a boy thing. I don't have any daughters, but it seems a little bit like personal hygiene is less important to boys, at least in the summertime. I think it's like that feral child within all of us, but at the same time, like I was always a kid who like brushed my teeth and combed my hair, and even if I didn't like, get super cute in the middle of the summer, I still like, put real clothes on. And I swear my kids could just be fine like lounging around in a pair of shorts and no shirt all day long. So anyways, personal hygiene, making sure that you're taking care of yourself and your body, and, feeding yourself in the morning. That is essential. Our second main rule this summer was no play dates at our house 3 days of the week. Our busiest days at work tended to be Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. And so we didn't want to host any play dates during the workday on those days. I heard lots of grumbles from my children when we shared this initially, but it was something that was really important to us, and it worked pretty well last summer to set this boundary. And so we wanted to repeat that this summer. We also asked our kids to try and have lunch and dinner at home every day. Lunch was a little hit or miss, just depending on Lionel had some hockey that he had during the week that was around lunchtime. Sometimes they didn't get started playing with friends until around noon. And so lunch was a little bit more flexible, but we had a very concerted effort to get them home for dinner to eat together every day. And then our last few rules were to clean up after yourselves. That admittedly was kind of a disaster. Again, I don't know if it's just the age my children are, or they're a unique and amazing ability to just look at a room and not see the mess that they've created, whether it's a Propel water bottle here, or a wrapper from a Pop-Tart there. Like, their unique ability not to see that when they're looking at a room is just, it blows my mind. Anyways, we also asked them to clean their bedrooms weekly, which also did not go well. We started out really strong at the beginning of the summer, but I think that as we all got busier and busier, and as the summer continued to kind of ebb and flow, those little things were what we relaxed and what they relaxed. And so again, our kids grumbled and groaned when we shared these rules, but by and large, these baseline expectations really help all of us to not lose our minds, whether it's us as parents or the kids, because we're not asking them to do 17 chores a week. They have, main goals of cleaning up after themselves and making sure their rooms are clean. We're not asking them to, come home for breakfast or stay home for breakfast one day and then, be home for dinner another day. They know their specific boundaries. The next thing that I really wanted to touch on that really worked for us this summer was just my flexibility when it came to focusing on when I could work and what needed to get done, and simply leaving the rest. Okay. My husband's work is more regimented, more structured. Work tends to slow down for him early in the summer, but the new fiscal year begins for his job in midsummer. And so there's always a little bit of an uptick in the number of, meetings that crop up on his work calendar or other things. And so the beginning of the summer is a little bit looser when it comes to, okay, well, I know we said no play dates on Tuesdays, but mom doesn't have a client project today and dad only has one meeting in the morning. So maybe we can manage something, right? But when we get into like the July, August part of it, it gets a lot harder, not only for my husband, but typically for me as well. As people start to see the school year approaching, they get like that antsiness of like, oh, I can think about my business again soon. I want to get things in order, right? So just the natural ebb and flow of work here definitely influences the way that we treat our kids and our flexible time and our work time in summer. Now, a new wrinkle was added this summer with the launch of What Sara Reads. I've been spending a lot of time hosting pop-up shops around Sioux Falls, our town, and also have been, spending time planning things, ordering stock, right? Ordering, bookish merchandise and books themselves, and a lot of administrative time, but also a lot of, on my feet time when I'm hosting a pop-up shop. And so that has meant trying to find other times of the day to serve my copywriting clients, but it's also meant juggling mama time, wife time, me time at different aspects of the day, right? So this summer, it has looked like working more in the evenings than I typically like to do at any time of the year, simply because that's when I have time. Okay. So it's different from my regular rhythm where I really try to focus while my kids are at school on work and then leave it behind when they're home. But I've really tried this summer to give myself permission to work when I could, especially when my sons were busy with friends or were at hockey practice or baseball games. I tried to be present as much as I could. I didn't miss many things, which pat on the back, yay me. But at the same time, it's allowing myself the flexibility and the permission to fit in work in little moments, little pockets when I can. And I'm a person who really loves routine and structure, and that can be challenging for me in the summer. But I think that this summer I did a lot better just by giving myself permission to work when I could and to tackle the things that were most pressing, the need to do's, not the nice to do's. The house definitely got neglected over the summer too. Like, the dishes probably creeped up a lot more often. Emails maybe went unanswered another, day or two past my typical response time. The laundry definitely piled up, but it's okay for these things to happen in a short season. This episode is brought to you by What Sara Reads, a mobile book buying experience for creative and inspired women in the greater Sioux Falls, South Dakota area. As a lifelong storyteller, a student, and a teacher of literature, an obsessive reader, and a copywriter by trade, I believe that words matter, and that reading for pleasure should be more than opening a plain brown box sent to your doorstep or swiping away a purchase confirmation on your Kindle. To me, discovering your next book to read should be an experience and an adventure. What Sara Reads is here to help you shamelessly add to your to-be-read pile. If you're not local to the Sioux Falls area, you can still support What Sara Reads. Every single book sale means a lot to solopreneurs like me, so please consider shopping for your next read on bookshop.org. If you select my shop at checkout, 30% of your purchase goes to supporting my small business. Thanks so much for your support. Now, back to the episode. All right, so I've already covered expectations that we set with our kids every summer and how I allow my working hours to be a little bit more flexible in the summertime. The next piece of allowing us to kind of keep our sanity and, be there for our kids during the summer is to outsource and ask for help, right? You knew I was going to go there. So I'm always asking myself, what can I take off my plate so that I can be a more present mom and wife, and so that I can spend time in my business doing what I'm good at, doing what makes me money, but also what can I take off my plate so that I can be a human, so that I can be Sara. And this summer, that has looked like asking for a lot of help. Okay. My parents, my mother in law have come in to help me, take care of the boys and staff the book trailer for me at pop up events. We've also had neighbors who have helped us, split up the transportation for the boys with hockey practice. They are kind and work different schedules than we do, and so they're open to hosting our kids for play dates or snack time or wiffle ball in the backyard while we need to get some work done. And so that's really been wonderful. When it comes to just keeping all of us sane and focused on what matters in the summer. Um, Work wise, I've also been thinking through how I can take things off my plate. And not a lot of those things like happened in the summer, but it was more so laying plans for future. So, what can I do to take some of like social media ideation, creativity off of my plate? What can I do to help myself show up better online? So I'm refining my own website copy. How can I create blog content in a new way? How can I serve my email list in a deeper way? And so again, how can I expand that reach that I have, and how can I continue building that friendship I'm growing with Google? So all of these things are pieces and parts that are really important to helping me be a present person, mom, wife, business owner, etc. this summer. Now, I want to say one thing that just did not go well. And I think that when I was talking to my husband about this episode, he chimed in that, like, there's never going to be a perfect formula. And I think that's absolutely true. But one thing that I would really love to try and figure out in the summers to come as our kids grow is, wow, the guilt. The guilt when I have to work, when I have to hop on a client call, when I have to say no to, playing Uno and yes to, writing for a client, or yes to working on admin stuff for my own business, right? Like, the guilt, I don't think ever will go away completely. I love my children. And so, of course, I want to be as present as possible for them when they're home all the time. The school year, I mean, our kids go to public school, and we are so blessed to have such a wonderful public school system. And I know that that's not the reality for a lot of people. And so, for us, the 9 months of the year that they are in public school, that's the time where we can really get focused work done. And I'm mostly talking about me here. Again, my husband's job is more corporate and more structured. But for me, like, what I put into it is what I get out of it. And the clients I take on, I can take on more or less. And so the time that I really have to make progress on my goals or grow my business is when my kids are at school. And that doesn't, like, that desire to achieve goals doesn't just like turn off in the summer. It's not like May 20 something and it's like, okay, turn that faucet off and not turn it on again until August 21 or whatever. It's just not a faucet. It's like I get inspired in certain times of the year, and I get inspired in times with my family and in times where my kids are with me. And it's been great to have my kids understand that mom has to work, but that doesn't mean that the guilt of like saying no to, that ice cream trip or whatever feels good. I don't think it'll ever feel good. But again, I just want to be real that, like, the guilt exists. And I think that there's probably not a way to like completely erase it. But man, I really wish there was. We had wonderful, like, quality time moments as a family. We took a brief vacation right at the end of the summer. We had quality time when we were traveling for hockey tournaments. We had like unplugged days where we just kind of spent time together, whether it was, playing board games or playing cards or just like doing things together. And I mean, my husband and I had those moments too. And so I know that that's what they'll remember about their summer, those vacations, that quality time, but the guilt doesn't necessarily let up as a mama. I wish that I could be more there for them. One of the things that I'll never ever forget when I was still teaching, since I only had the summertime, one of the things that I really focused on with my kids, because I was teaching year round, and so I lived for the summer when I was off and could be a mama to my kids. When my kids were younger than school age, I would create theme weeks for our summers. Like one week would be Lego week, where we do some sort of Lego related activity every day. I had like water week, where we'd go to a pool, or one time I froze Matchbox cars in ice, and they had to figure out how to melt it. And like I did all of these cute and creative things with them when they were like, 5 and 3, or really young. And I did all of these things. And one time my oldest said to me, "Mom, what's our theme this week?" And it was, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And I looked at him and I'm like, "I don't have one, honey. Like, I don't have one." And I feel like sad and like sentimental about the passage of time in that regard, and the different type of present mom that I was then. But that's not to say that I'm not a present mom now. I'm a present mom and a business owner, and so my presence looks different. And I think that that's just going to be something that I internally struggle with trying to be okay with as my kids grow, and as I evolve as a woman, as a wife, as a mom, as a business owner. And it's just one of those battles I don't think I'll ever stop fighting, because I love my kids and I want to be there for them in the moments where they need me. And I know, and I can tell myself, like, you were, Sarah, you were there when they needed you. And your work and your presence might look different today than it did, you know, 5 years ago, 7 years ago, 8 years ago. But that's okay, because they're changing and growing and evolving too. So, anyways, if you needed this permission to kind of let yourself be grateful for what this summer was in your life, in your family, in your business, I'm giving that all to you today. I think that giving ourselves permission to be imperfect when it comes to motherhood, or marriage, or business, or life, is so important. And I know that I will treasure these times with my kids in the summer, even though it's hard, especially because it's hard to balance their desires, their wants, their needs, their sweet personalities with my need to work and my love for my work. So, anyways, thanks as always for listening. And this is your Copywriter on Call signing off. I hope that you had a great summer. Thanks for listening to the Copywriter on Call podcast. If this episode has you feeling all sorts of inspired to show up as yourself online, click that subscribe button so you don't miss my stories or practical advice to help you express your quirky, vulnerable, and authentic self online. Chat soon.